We are going to talk. This is our segment that we're going to do every month on the patch notes for everything we've released to the live product. For those of you who just joined us, I'm Thomas Blair, lead designer.
I'm Mark Hallish.
All right.
So let's start reading some patch notes off. Mark?
Indeed.
Where are you going to start?
I don't know. Let's see. Where are we? June 1st?
June 1st.
So let's see. We'll start with powers can now add a multiplier onto the resource cost for specific power bars. This should fix the issue of druids using discipline powers to avoid essence gain. So actually June 1st actually had was the beginning of quite a few changes or I guess adjustments to the way basically fixing some things related to resource costs. Because we actually have a pretty sophisticated system in there now for dynamically updating. Because basically we essentially say how much something costs, and then it magically converts to the correct
magic.
Yes, and it is magic. To the resource cost of your native class, basically. And so this was fixing things related to that. And there's actually a couple of these in there for June 1st, and I believe the next week too.
Yeah, but I think specifically the problem with Druid was the game.
Right.
So Essence in the past, we have actually had to put a game effect deep within every single Druid power, and it was a big pain in the butt.
Yeah, it was
prone to error.
Happy, right. It was basically
and we didn't have it. I mean, we used it because we had, right?
Yeah, it was
so
until we
Mr. Borland gave us a piece that said, "Hey, you can just do it at the root of the power level." We went through and made a pass. Boom! Now they all properly add essence when you use them in any trip.
Right, because then prior to that, basically, if you were a druid, you equipped a healing discipline. It just didn't cost anything, which was kind of advantageous.
Or it costed something. Remember, it was just costing you essence, so you could use discipline powers to offset the cost. Yeah, that was... Yeah. So it's now matches more of the vision of what we have for the baseline druid. And moving on.
Indeed. Oh, yeah, so let's see. We have a bunch of balance fixes. So Punch Drunk, rebuilt Punch Drunk so it uses a proc, so we can apply a cooldown. There's the fix for Field Surgeon, rehabilitation ticks, which was ticking 3 times instead of 2. We did a balance pass on Troubadour and Bard song, so they matched more like the rest of the powers.
I think your wording on that one was kind of funny. Was Blair, are you insane? These are all 16 meters.
Yeah.
And instead of 5 meters like everything else.
Sure.
And, that happens a lot of time when we're building powers is we just, in our ground test environment, we set up values to make it work. And then we'll make it a polished pass on it at some point.
Blair relies on me going, Blair, what did you do? Why is this? Oh my God!
Yeah, usually Mark goes through and makes the final, just the last minute knob adjustments to make sure that everything is cohesive within the global thing. A lot of times, early on when we're just making powers, one of the approaches we're just looking for fun.
Yeah, it's right. Like okay, just put them in there, make sure it works,
and then it goes into the bucket for it. We'll get a polished pass when we go through and do a polished pass on everything. Basically, I equate it to hitting things with different granularities of sandpaper.
Yeah.
Right? When we're making the powers, we're using that 50 grain just to kind of get it in shape, and then you go through with 100 and then 150, and then it gets smoother and more polished over time. So, but we really want to make sure that just the powers work.
Right. And so that, so a lot of times we'll put something out there before it's balanced, right? And that's basically so we can prove whether or not it's fun, right? Because that's what we're going for.
Okay. Moving on.
Indeed. And so, and there was same thing, Field Surgeon, some fixes for noble purpose, and Blast Leaves.
The per tick channel cost. That one kind of catches us by surprise.
Which one is that? Oh, yeah. Yes.
That's a field that Mark added that, can we stat mod that yet?
That we can't stat mod.
So we can stat mod the initial tick, but we can't stat mod the...
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. But yeah, so that was basically... because we couldn't do that. Now we can.
Yeah, if you don't put a value in there, basically it only charges you for the initial upfront cost of a channeled power, and then it's free for every tick. But we now have a way to actually put a cost on every tick to shut it off early.
And the reason why that's important is because basically pip users versus, like say, a mana user, right? So a mana user or channel talks, basically you pay up until this particular change, you paid every tick.
This was actually, the reason we needed this tech was for the Duelist Rapid Fire, I think.
Right, which we actually wound up not using a tech or a pip cost for it, but we do have the functionality for things like Blast of Leaves. and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So
it's funny how sometimes you need it for one thing and you get it completely touches things that you're like, oh yeah. Okay. Stats. Just renamed the enhanced Druid orbs to the Druid Orb Refund, just so people understand that somebody needs to use that orb for you to get back the actual the essence.
And that was basically feedback, basically, because like, what does enhanced Druid? It was like, what does this do?
Right. So that stuff will get clearer here. 5.3ish, I think, when the character sheet is going in, when you can actually tooltip over any stat, and it tells you what that stat description is as well as what its cap is.
Right. I guess we show those, or we will be showing those in the skill tree. Do we show them in the skill tree now or not yet?
In the skill tree, they will get the brief description upcoming, but it will be more detailed on the character sheet. So that we are trying to make things clear.
Right.
Okay. Druid and Templar. Templar basic attacks now grant 2 pips when used against a target afflicted with Sick.
Right. That was just a bug fix.
Okay. Moving on to page 3. We're up to June 8.
June 8. There we go.
Continued making adjustments to cooldowns on powers, including an interruption to root motion if the server requests the power request. This fix should help powers with being cast instantly or having a really long cooldown. Yeah, we don't want to put you on a 45-second cooldown if the power failed on the server for whatever reason. Fix the temple statue movement issues by correcting the capsule size, collider, and placement. Yeah, these ones are always irritating.
Yeah.
Like, we drop an object into a map, and you guys don't see the colliders, and we do. Someone has to make sure that the collider is set up properly, and if they don't, you have all kinds of interaction issues. So somebody set them up wrong in the temple. Address the issue of altering settings in the settings menu not working or updating. This issue was most noticeable when the graphics settings were altered. Yeah, settings should work. Crafting. Added new components to the Great Hilt crafting recipe. So we've gone through a couple iterations on the crafting of the great weapons. Basically, we're trying to normalize the amount of weapon efficiency components that can go into an object. Great weapons, we're just throwing the numbers off because there's ×2, and the paired weapons, we're having a similar problem. Even though in the race class split, we're getting ready to split paired weapons into a main hand and an offhand, which will introduce all kinds of new math problems that we have to deal with. But for now, you guys are playing with the reduced cost on two-handers. Okay, so June 8th also saw the disciplines being broken into a set of new beginner disciplines. So I'd added a bunch of passive powers just for people to test so we could see how they worked. And then after we were happy with that, I migrated them over to basic disciplines. So now a new person coming into Crowfall will drop in, they'll harvest, they'll craft basic weapons, basic armor, and they'll see that they can craft these things called basic disciplines, which will get them used to adding disciplines as a gameplay element. I know a lot of you guys are like, well, yeah, that's obvious, but people coming in, it's not obvious. So we want to introduce them to one of the coolest things in Crowfall, which is our ridiculous levels of customization now as far as your powers and just the character. So we want to get them into those early disciplines. And these disciplines add things like combat statistics and some passive powers. The mental fortitude one ended up on the footman basic discipline. Labor grants them the basic harvesting capabilities. And apprentice is going to get some of the basic crafting stuff when we go back into the crafting phase 2 update that we're doing sometime in the future. But the idea being is these passives are really good. We wanted you to sacrifice a major discipline slot for them so that you don't use them forever. And they're just designed to be basic. And you will replace them with better disciplines once you get those disciplines. Right now, it's a little easy because it costs 1 copper. But eventually that will go away when you actually have to find the correct thrall type and have that discipline crafted. Right? It's going to be very different when it's not like, hey, everyone just grab Juggernaut.
Yeah.
Juggernaut may not be available to you because you haven't found that thrall in the world. The only thing available to you is Firewalker or whatever, because that's what you found. So in a lot of cases, it will be what you have found in the world, not going into a menu and paying 1 copper. Yeah, that's one of the interesting things when people are doing builds is everyone's assuming that everything's going to be as easily obtainable as it is now.
Yeah.
Once there's actually gameplay systems involved in getting those disciplines, you'll kind of make builds based on what you have available to you. Hey, these may not be what I wanted or what I'm working towards.
That's what you got.
But that's what I got. And they gave me some pretty good stuff for that's what I got. So, moving on.
So we got some, let's see, reduced damage bonus on Careless Whisper and Pound of Flesh to 15%. It's just, like I said, it's getting more balance changes to get things in line with one another. Remove flight text for resolve adjustments made when using Juggernaut Unstoppable, just so you don't see random numbers floating up over your head that confuse you. Mole Hunter Heads Up, increase the anti-stealth granted to 50, which basically increases the bubble to where your detection bubble.
Yep.
The Master Pistol's weapon discipline range bonus modifier now modifies Duelist Go for Broke, so basically if you're using that widens the range of that stealth attack. Fix the issue with the resource multiplier for Blood Pact not working with Essence or Rage. Just looping back to what we were mentioned earlier about the additional functionality we got for resources. That's another piece of that.
Blood Pact has been a notorious problem child.
It has been the canary in the coal mine for finding everything that we need to fix with the resource system.
Which is great.
Yeah,
right. Berserk and Myrmidon was the canary for a long time.
Yeah.
And it just getting that one power working fixed probably 10 or 15 other bugs within the whole combat system. Blood Pact has been the exact same way.
Yeah.
So as a minor discipline, normally you're like, man, we have put a lot of effort into making this one thing work, but there's actually a bunch of other fixes to the entire system that went along with it.
There are many beneficiaries to those fixes.
Sometimes it's just worth it to pay for one of those guys to get that stuff fixed. Okay, let's go into Druid Spark.
Sure. So this was actually a piece of feedback that you guys let us know. And so we split Spark into another Spark. So Spark has been replaced by Focus Spark in the Death Tray. This version of Spark hits a single target only and causes more damage than the original AoE version.
And that was something we talked about a month ago in the first one of these, which was designed to be a splitter, and you guys wanted a single target one, so we gave you a single target one. So there you go. Okay. Duelist lowered Impale base damage because Impale was demolishing people. Ranger replaced some missing Ranger attack references in their basic combo. Probably animations weren't playing. Lobby got some updates. Updated facing selection in the UI. Fixed some missing crow models. Temporarily removing Pounce from the Hellcat attack repertoire. I think it's added back in now that they fixed the root motion leap on those.
Yeah, it was a temporary stopgap measure.
More Blood Pact fixes. And
that was now that it works, fix the data.
Change the Bard song effects timing so that the effects only played on the initial application, not on each refresh. Thank you, Mr. Gibson. Did you ever get us the updated sounds for the Bard songs? He's shaking his head no.
It was put on a top priority project for Gamescom.
Yeah, okay. We need to put that sticky back on your monitor to get some updated sounds. Added a pre-spawn check to validate player spawn position isn't underground or intersecting terrain. It's always irritating the fall through the world bugs. But what happens is the server moves you to a location, you haven't loaded the terrain there, you go into the world. And then we need to figure out ways to get you back above the world. Okay, page 5.
Page 5. Here we are.
Removing an extra line of durability experimentation for Bolim Stafe recipe. Durability still... In fact, you know what Steve was talking about durability last week? He found out that it wasn't being persisted at all. So he made a fix so it should get persisted. I think he's in the 5.2, so that one will come out in the next big update I'm hoping.
Should see things breaking.
So, actually, what was happening was they were crafting and putting stats into it, and it was coming out way better than the template values, but it wasn't persisting that.
Right.
So it was just going and grabbing a template value, which is roughly
junk compared to
20% or 10% of what you could get it to. So things are about to start lasting a lot longer than they used to, as long as the persistent stuff works. Updated list of equipable casters for field searching, crafting, testing recipe. Reorganize the blacksmithing weapon components menu so it's a bit easier to navigate. Yeah, it was getting too big and bulky, so we broke it into some subcategories there for the crafters for organization.
Yep. We got what? Master of Shields, Shield Glare combo, Blind works now.
The blind wasn't working before?
I guess not. So apparently fix that.
Okay.
Shieldbreaker, Dispel now works to remove barriers. That was, I don't remember what the problem was with that. It was not working it was not working in a couple cases. Illusionist updated Glamour weapon durations and cooldown to match standard buff durations and cooldown. Again, that's just going through and bringing things in line. And then classes. Oh, right. So we increased base hit points by 75% to offset the lack of advanced armor. Again, this was basically feedback because basically we're expecting you to have higher mitigation values than people have right now. And in fact, actually even higher health totals for that matter, because there's appreciable attributes that are missing from the equation now too, since we don't have formal vessel crafting and vessel, racial skills, all that stuff. So to that end, we just basically quick fix to increase hit points by 75%. Yes, that does basically make healing harder, but
yeah, I mean the goal there in the future is that will be replaced by factory crafted armor once people start making ridiculous factory crafted armor. Once you have factories, right now you're handcrafting it all, and it's kind of very tedious. It won't be once they have blueprints.
Right.
So the only stuff that will really be handcrafted, if I remember correctly, is the necromancy stuff.
Yes.
We're expecting everybody else to use factories for most of the other things, and
which means more perfect or near perfect results, since you can try.
We always assume that you're going to get near the top end of stuff because we know how people are, and once you get a manufacturing schematic, there will be 30 or 40 instances of that perfect thing for that factory run. So we're thinking ahead, and basically this is just a stopgap fix until we get that stuff, and then we'll bring it back down to where we want to. At the end of the day, it all ends up being health, effective health. I mean, it's
health versus effective health. That basically means it's harder to heal, but wins.
Okay. Taste for blood will no longer trigger from harvesting. Decrease the cost of bloodied swipe from 17 to 16 and gore from 34 to 23. Mm-hmm. Oh, so I remember this. Yeah. You were talking about this video one day when I walked in.
Yes, indeed. Yeah, let's talk about that real quick. There's been a lot of hubbub, or was a lot of hubbub on the forums about Myrmidon and Myrmidon ability costs. It's actually we honestly have not increased the cost for any of those things, at least not intentionally. And so in investigating that, we found actually a couple of things. One of them was obviously the cost for Bloodied Swipe, which is the resource restoration thing from Myrmidons that we assume you're using was too expensive. So that means obviously that's going to cut into your bottom line as far as resource generation. And the second part of this of what we discovered when we looked into it was the weapon costs, right? So the paired weapons, you're basically paying double the resource. What do we call that? That's that. Efficiency, yes. You're paying double efficiency.
Right.
So, and all these things were making Myrmidons cost a lot more than everybody else. So hopefully that should be better now.
They've been playing it the last 3 weeks, so.
Right. And then we added a mana cost to fireballs for Confessors.
Yeah, if you remember the original design, and I still want us to get back to it as near as we can, was the Confessor would burn the hell out of something and just dump all of their powers, and then they'd have to go into Fervor, a bit of downtime, and get some mana back. And they can kind of circumvent some of the Fervor time with, there's a passive that lets you stand still to get some faster regeneration, and then there's another passive where their crits, the Righteousness, I believe, proc, gets them some resource back. But we're not quite, I don't think it's as tuned as tight as I'd like it to be on Confessor, but we will get it to that point where they can just mana dump, and then they need to go into a period of time where they need to get mana back. We haven't seen that really since early Hunger days.
Yeah.
Hunger Dome days, but we'll get back to it. I mean, it's just a tuning issue. And let's go to the exciting new stuff.
Yes.
So this is the stuff that we've been building up for the 5.2 eventual drop. And here's some of those fun patch notes. Upgrade to Unity 5.6.1 is in this build. So there was a bunch of, there were some terrain navigation stuff.
I mean, the biggest thing was probably the garbage collection, right? So this Unity 5.6 has I think better garbage collection stuff. So that actually should make some of the hitching go away, which it did. We noticed a lack of hitching.
So yeah, we're continually working on optimization, and sometimes we just get it when we do a Unity upgrade, which is great. Okay, so campaign list now automatically updates. This will happen every 30 seconds when the scenario isn't selected or when the pages are changed. Added a stats fix for child stats affected by skills training. The amount of training child stats was off by a few points, but now should be fixed. So yeah, we continue to hammer on the math for the skills to stats conversions, because we really want to make sure that everything is being calculated correctly, because the whole concept of having these parent stats that raise children's stats, and then it has to go through again and again and recalculate things. Obviously, you could end up in a scenario where you would endlessly be doing that, and we don't want to do that. But we also want to make sure you guys are getting all the stats that we are giving you in the skill trees from equipment, from powers, etc. So those fixes continue to be made. Adjusted the Ganetian harvesting animations. I don't remember what was wrong with them.
Probably just.
Fixed a bug in which the Constitution bonus did not get added to the hit point total when rechoosing the same vessel type. This means, for example, that a knight gains 5 hit points per Constitution point, increasing its base hit points by 27 times 5. New settings in the escape menu have been added. Fixed a bug where mouse sensitivity is incorrect when changing from the settings panel. Fixed the group member UI to show the correct faction on joining a group and whenever the group member's faction changes. Why would a group member's faction change?
I don't know that we directly support that, but we have console commands that allow that.
Okay. A more elaborate description for tyranny maps has been added to the campaign info pane to better explain the rule sets. More info is always good. Fixed an issue with public EKs not displaying in the kingdoms list. Updated the look of interaction prompts. Okay, that's all general stuff.
Indeed. Very general.
Okay, why don't you talk about the map tool?
Map tool. So, map tool. Support for maps and campaign and EK worlds has been added. Press M to view map in current position. Press M to close the map window. That's right, you finally have an in-game map in-game. When you press M. Yay!
Yay, but that map only shows...
the world.
It only shows areas that you have revealed.
The next bullet point. Fog of War appear on the maps until the area is fully discovered. So, camera zoom levels for the EK tool and map is now persisted. That's actually kind of a weird note, because to you, they will just persist. View for map and EK tool and map tool now centers on the player's position, or will center on player's position from here.
That's kind of funny, because they will never have known the map that you couldn't press M to open and close.
Yeah, you could press M to open, but not close. That
was hilarious. So yeah, we're yelling around the office, why can't I press M to close the map? How do I close? It's like once you're in the map, no, you're not getting out of it.
Right.
You're just in map forever.
No,
they will never know to that. Or the joy of not centering. So it would open the map and it would put. You're like, hey, where am I? I don't know.
Here.
Yes. So having a map is going to obviously change things a lot, because you're going to actually know what's going on.
Yeah, you find that place where the Hellcats are spawning. You'd be like, it's right there, and I know how to get back to there.
Well, this also introduces the idea that I can actually scribe map segments on my map and then give them to you, who hasn't explored the map.
You're like, here's the fort that we will be raiding tonight.
So you'll actually be able to see and share maps between each other, which is really cool.
Mm-hmm.
So the scouting stuff is eventually where this will be going. I think Bentley gave us some stat functionality where you can increase the stat that reveals your fog is bigger. You can scribe bigger maps. You can reveal more during nighttime. You can reveal more during daytime. So we're starting to get a bunch of stats. In fact, I think I made a scout discipline for testing purposes. It's not in the list yet, but it gives you the max value, so he had something to test with when he was implementing it. We'll have to tune those values for actual release. Okay. Skill trees. First pass on skill tree interface has been added, including more detail on current skill and training. To see more info, Control will now expand the selected skills tooltip. So that's really cool. So now it bears the question, do we still need the description data in there for what that skill box is doing?
Right.
And I don't know the answer yet.
Yeah. You'll
tell us what you think when you're in there. If you press the Control key and the blurb that it's giving you is enough, we might be able to get ourselves some space back and maybe even transition that blurb into some lore text, which would be interesting. Fixed an issue where the crafting skills were capped at 10 for many of the archetypes.
Yes.
That was funny because Mark's like, hey, Blair, did you intend to keep all of these skills at 10? And I was like, no, what happened? And I went and looked, and yeah, in our rows and rows and rows and rows of thousands of rows of data, most of the crafting skills have been set to 10 instead of 100. So if you've trained those skills, you'll be getting a whole lot of stats out of them in the future. Nice to find those bugs now. Updated the while you're away toast notification window to now use pips. Makes sense because this is the whole pip system is coming online with this, which if you saw the update last week, that's where it is. There's a bunch of tooltip increasing and decreasing the font sizes to try and make that thing look pleasing. We're just basically trying to get that thing into a polished state that's
looking more better.
Mo better. Crafting. Why don't you do this one?
Sure. All right. So updating parcel recipes to now use specific parcels instead of a parcel category size. Not sure what that means.
So that was the adjectives.
Oh, okay,
so she changed it from using. So Valerie's been handling all of the parcel crafting, and she changed it from a generic "this uses this type of parcel" to "it uses this specific one."
Right. Okay. Added cartography and cartography components to the crafting menu recipes for creating a blank map. So there you go, geomancy.
So you will need some crafting action if you want to be able to scribe those maps.
Removed old siege recipes from the crafting list. Again, that's just clean up. Added a new reagent called Enrich Mulch for new siege recipes. Added new siege recipes, Enrich Mulch, Seed of Life, and Banewood Tree. Very exciting. Replace gear reagent with polished gemstones for ballista and catapult blueprint recipes. Added unobtainium component to focus over crafting recipes, basically deactivating them.
Yes, right? Because unobtainium is something we don't have.
Because it
always amuses me when somebody's like, "Hey, where do I get the unobtainium from?"
WTB unobtainium.
You get it from Pandora.
Updated experimentation for weapon crafting components to use a single damage line instead of min-max double lines during experimentation for the following items, and it's a big list, including arrowhead bundles, weapon hilts, weapon blades, focus orb shells, basically weapon crafting stuff. That pretty much does it for page 2 of new stuff. Bring us to page 3.
Yeah, again, this is the 5.2 stuff we're going over, which is stuff you should be seeing
very soon?
Imminently.
Eminently.
Imminently. It's gone from soon to imminently.
And this leads to a very big category with lots of detail, but can be summed up into soft targeting. So basically disciplines, major disciplines, weapon disciplines, and pretty much most powers.
Melee powers.
Most melee powers, and a handful of range powers should be much easier to hit with melee powers now, or after that change goes in.
Yeah.
And effectively, what that does is it just client server architecture. Some of you guys know how this works, right? If you've been playing MMOs for a while, you realize that what you see on the screen, you're effectively playing in the past, right? What you see on the screen is not necessarily exactly what's happening on the server.
Correct.
So if I'm sitting there, I see Blair, I see Blair right here. Let's see, I don't know where my hands are. And I'm facing Blair on my screen, and I do a punch, and I look like I should be hitting Blair, but actually Blair at this point is really over here, and I've actually missed Blair. That's the always the conundrum with trying to have an action game that has melee combat. Those things are much less a problem when you're looking down your bow sights. That's much less of a problem. There's much less movement. But when you have a situation where you can certainly strafe around, that actually, you're going to be missing when it looks like you should be hitting. So what the soft targeting does is basically, if you're hitting on your client, that we say, hey, that's close enough, right? So basically, it's that and a bunch. It's more than that, but it's basically a lot of things to basically make it so that if you are aiming properly, with what you see on the screen is a little more authoritative than it would be normally. So it should be a lot easier to hit, and it is a lot easier. Not should be, but is actually.
Yeah. So the melee guys, it shouldn't be as. I mean, the end result is it shouldn't be as frustrating to play a melee character as it has been up until this point.
Right.
Which is, I think I should be hitting. I think I should be hitting,
and you just don't.
And you just don't. Like my reticle was clearly on top of you in the playback video. I saw my reticle, but really the server had. You're playing in the past, just like Mark said. So now it will feel much better for all of the melee characters. We're hoping. Tell us what you think once you guys get your hands on it. But
it feels a lot better. I mean, it's like it's almost night and day. It's a lot better. So.
Yeah, I mean, we were just fighting with the internet there, and this is just another way. This is one of the techniques to account for internet latency and make it feel like because. He was under your reticle. You should have hit him, right?
Hit him. You're doing the right thing.
You shouldn't have to lead a target based on variable internet latency because it just doesn't work.
Right.
So there was a lot of effort put into that. A lot of the powers have been updated to do that or to use that technique. Mm-hmm. The range stuff does not. That still uses pretty much.
Yeah. There's a handful of them, but there's just not many.
Right.
Okay. We call it the ones that are to do that. So we list out all those for the major weapons. I'm not going to do that.
Blazin just said client-side hit detection. It is not.
It is not client-side hit detection.
It is not client-side hit detection at all, Blazin. It is, again, it is just accounting for the difference between the server position of the player and the client position of the player. Mm-hmm. Basically meaning we're more generous with our raycast. It's actually a sphere cast, if you really need to know it. It's not actually and a sphere cast means it's bigger. We tried it with rectangles in the past, and it wasn't as good as we wanted to. Yeah. This technique is
there's a lot of different things going on.
Yeah.
With this, it's more it's definitely not just client side hit detection. It's a lot of several different techniques.
Yeah. So please don't start that kind of thing. Yes. It really is. It makes it feel better. It's not locking onto that target in any way. It's just being more generous with the shape that it's using. Like I said, we used rectangles in the past. We're trying the sphere cast now. It feels a lot better.
Right. And you still have to aim and hit.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
If the reticle isn't on there, you're still going to miss. It is still possible to miss with melee attacks. But if you were to watch a video replay of why did I just miss, you'd be like, oh, my reticle wasn't anywhere near the target. The problem we were having was the reticle was on the target and people were still missing.
Yeah.
And that was because of the, obviously, the internet latency that we were not accounting for.
Right.
So bottom line is it should feel better, and it's still just as skillful as it was. You still have to put the reticle on the target. It's just going to, when you put the reticle on the target, it's actually going to hit here and not be a kind of a luck of the draw. Was the internet latency in my favor or not?
Right. And then, but they're on to number of balance changes that you guys have been letting us know about. So let's see, Field Surgeon, a couple different things with Field Surgeon. Correct an issue, preventing noble purpose. Right. Oh, there was actually, oddly enough, despite all the hullabaloo noble purpose was causing, there was actually a couple cases where it didn't work. And it was actually the one we cared more about, which was like when you were healing other people. Worked really good when you're healing yourself. But and to that end, noble purpose no longer works on yourself and can only trigger once every 15 seconds. This basically puts noble purpose in the realm of every other resource restoration type of discipline.
Yeah.
Right. And then we also changed rehabilitation so it only heals your target, doesn't heal you. As much as we all loved it, it was too much of a hey, this is the ultimate self heal, which was not the intention of that ability at all. Master of Focus, nerfed. No, the pushback effect from Nova can only affect a target once, and then tune the damage so it's a little closer to where it should have been. So basically, what that means is Nova will pull you in once, and will not just keep pulling you back and forth Blair. Firewalker added, and so somebody actually, I saw this question on the forum actually. Reflect adds 25 armor as actually that's in addition to what it already does. It also now adds an additional 25% armor.
Wow, Firewalker got really even better.
Yeah, it got better. Reflect heat was not as compared to if you looked at the specific counters for particular weapon types or particular damage types. Firewalker had fewer avenues than the other ones did for doing that. And so Reflect Heat was just weak compared to some of the other ones. Master of Pistols reduced the initial delay before the first pulse of rapid fire, so it's a little easier to score and expose punish on attacking targets. So let me mention this real quick. So Master of Pistols, I've gotten this as a bug a few times. It should be noted that it is a channel power that you need to hold the button down to use.
It's just like rapid fire. It's like Ranger rapid fire.
Right. So if you so basically what would happen is if you just tap the button, the ability would fire, but because there was a delay, you wouldn't actually really do anything. So just basically to make that a little nicer, if you accidentally fat finger or whatever, remove the initial delay so it's a little easier to expose punish, like the description or like what I just read, whatever.
So I'm guessing people were trying to use that on the run.
I think
and probably not
they just didn't realize it was when this was being reported. I think people just didn't realize it's a channel because when you hold the button down, it works great.
Okay.
Right. But if you just tap the button, it doesn't work very well because it's a channel and you're supposed to.
Does the icon have the correct liner on it?
That I don't know. That's a good question.
Right. So there's like a yellow border that goes around all the hold channels. Maybe it doesn't.
It may not. I'll have to look.
That would be an easy fix too.
Indeed.
Okay, powers. Blocking and parrying no longer prevent control effects when exposed.
Yeah, and so this is something we're trying. And this is sort of the another thing that was causing a lot of concern on forums was, and again, this was like Noble Purpose or Fields. A couple of the disciplines were being blamed for this, and actually. What I found looking into it, it was just Templar was working really well.
Okay.
And so basically blocking is really good, and being able to effectively block and heal at the same time, it's really, really, really good. Turns out. And this is not going to get any better when we add Cleric, who gets block. Right, so if
Cleric block is pretty insane.
Right, if you think Templar is bad, wait till you get Cleric. So to that end, basically, and just trying this. Let us know if you don't like it, but basically, so it is easier to stop to shut down a blocker without having to equip a potentially rare discipline. Basically, expose targets. Or when you're exposed, you are no longer immune to crowd control effects when you block or parry. So what that means is if you have a Templar or a Cleric just turtling up with their hots rolling, you can knock them down.
Yeah, so basically it gives you a way to knock somebody out of a block.
Right.
I mean, in an action game, it would be called a block breaker or whatever.
Right.
Right.
It's
another,
basically specialists can help out the group by making the blockers a little.
So you need to bring your specialists along to stop people from essentially blocking. And turtling. So counterplay, great stuff. So we have 12 minutes. So we should show. Let's see. Is there any really hot ticket? So we still have another page and a half of stuff in here. What is the biggest?
Too much stuff here.
Let's see. There's some tooltip fixes. All of the single target melee stuff.
Yeah, a lot of this is actually the soft targeting was a big.
Templar Ultimate can now be used while stunned, knocked down, or suppressed.
That's a good one.
That's a good fix for the Templar. Yeah. Templar cannot gain supercharge while the health buff from Brilliance is active.
Yeah, and that's basically just
to prevent them from
a little balance tweak.
And then we're into known issues, which is great because we don't need to talk about known issues because you see them every week and they will get fixed in the future. We thought we would show you. The race class split stuff is well underway.
Yep.
Jack, why don't you bring up the Ganeshan? We have another one that we can show you today.
There you go.
Yay! Okay. So there is the Ganetian.
Love the icon.
Yeah. You're just like, hey, he's a little rat guy. Okay, so Mark went through and made a balance pass at the numbers that go on all these guys, the attributes that are being granted. You'll notice bigger, chunkier amounts of attributes being granted.
Yeah.
So the Ganetian get a 60 dex bonus, which feeds into the duelist, and a big intellect bonus, which feeds into the cleric because of support power based off of...
Support power is based off of spirit, but what we talked about yesterday...
Yes. I'm sorry, their healing bonus comes from intellect.
Right.
If I'm not mistaken.
Right, okay,
as well.
right. Yeah,
right, so Ganetians will make good clerics.
Mm-hmm.
Also, their bloodline passive is they reduce stamina cost for jumping. They don't pay a penalty at all. And for just stamina usage, they don't. Your 200 every stamina ticks. They don't pay a food cost. They get a dodge, obviously, and then they get Ganetian Burrow. So this is a stealth power, which will put them... this is a toggle power that you have to put on your bar. So all of our stealth powers that we currently have, the Duelist Burrow and the Assassin Stealth, are actually going to be activated by either any key that you map it to cycle to that tray.
Mm-hmm. So it's not going to eat a bar slot.
So it's not going to eat a power tray slot. The Ganetian Racial Burrow is going to eat a bar slot, and it is a toggle power. They have to turn it on, and when it's on, it's gradually draining stamina over time. So the idea being, yes, Ganetians get Burrow, they get Stealth. I think it lasts for up to 3 minutes, which is a very long time. But it's not as good as the classes who get Stealth as their thing.
They can basically live in Stealth if they want.
Right. Those guys, the Assassins and the Duelists, will be able to live in Stealth. The Ganetian Burrow, it's still insane that you have Knights and Clerics that can sneak around for up to 3 minutes before they have to pop up and get some stamina back. But it's similar to the Wood Elf Camouflage, which is also a bar slot toggle power. Yeah, it's kind of nice how we're refining how the rules on how these things work. So the natural stealth and all that stuff is now part of the tray, and it gets a button, whereas these get bar slots. And they get saltpeter rounds, which is pistol shots can snare targets. So the Ganetian Burrow isn't as useful for Duelist. Mm-hmm. So we gave saltpeter rounds, so there's something in there useful for Duelist. I think that icon is wrong, though, because that looks like an ultimate icon.
Like an ultimate icon.
And that, in fact, is not an ultimate. It is just
It should be a passive, right?
No, it's actually a buff. That should be a triangle up. It should be a...
Oh, so it's something you use?
Yeah, it's like for the next 30 seconds, all pistol shots can now apply a snare.
Got it.
So...
We should actually notice, too, if we actually are changing the scales of attributes a little bit. Before we were sort of... we more or less kind of doubled what we assume their maxes are going to be, because up to this point we were sort of assuming that caps were going to be like you were going to get to the 130, 150-ish range. Now we basically have, to give us a little more headroom, we've increased that to probably closer to 250, 300 for max attributes. So.
Yep, there are new things in the works that require we have more headroom, and we'll probably talk about that in the future. Mm-hmm. We can answer some questions. We have 10 minutes because we like to talk a lot, and we're really excited about the things we're doing.
Yep, we have like 14 pages of passwords.
Also, substance on the statistics granted for the Ganetian. Substance means they convert food into chicken ticker better. So they get like a 10% bonus on the food that they eat.
They eat less.
They require less ultimately. Okay, so what questions do we have, Jack? Have you been storing down the good ones?
I have been watching, but I've also been telling them to kind of hold off until you guys got through everything because we wanted to keep it pretty narrow to what you guys were talking about today.
Oh, Blayson just said duelists can wear plate too. Interesting that he says that, because part of the race class split will be giving a specific armor type to each class as their main, and then you can use disciplines to get into the other armor types if you want to. So if you want a duelist to wear plate, that one is going to be something you have to find, and it will come out of your disciplines. So, yes, it's great that we built all of the armor for all of the races, so we can let them use everything. However, they won't get them all for free. I would expect them to be armor mastery disciplines or something in a tree. More than likely, the armor mastery disciplines. Okay, what do we got? Is it intended? This from Zyback. Is it intended that power cost multipliers get pip classes to the point where discipline powers are free?
No.
Does that currently happen, Zyback?
I mean, there are cases of that happening. If there are cases, if that's still happening, you should definitely let us know. Some of those were fixed, so that maybe that's if we go back to the patch note we were talking about, Blood Pact and all those other, should hopefully be fixed. But if they're not, please let us know after
yeah,
5.2
actually, let us after 5.2 is out there. Then please, get us a list and we'll look at it.
Yeah.
Crowfall, are we going to lose the armor skills in the passive tree since classes will be locked to certain armors? And the answer to that is no, because your skill tree is account based.
Yeah.
Right? So you're building your crow via the skill tree, and you have to be able to jump into different vessel types. Right? So you will want to train those skills over time. You might just align with classes that wear plate because that's where your training is. And once you make it through the plate training, you may start on leather because you want to start playing classes that go into leather. Or if you've been playing a class that comes with leather, then you may want the benefits that you can now get rid of a discipline runestone that was enabling you to wear plate on that class, so you would get the plate benefits.
Right.
That's kind of... We have so many...
lots of avenues.
We have so many avenues, and we're always trying to give you at least 3. I think seems to be our kind of current one. Well, it's like they can tackle the problem this way, or they can tackle it this way, or they can tackle it this way. Basically, you guys will have lots of choice, and once all of the gameplay elements are in there, obviously there will be an optimal route, but it won't always be available. Just because it's optimal doesn't mean it's going to be available. So you will have to find those things and build your character and do all of the gameplay finding of things to get those things. Anyways, next question. Several classes have skills for all armor types. It's funny that Blazin mentions that because he's talking about the archetype trees.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Archetype trees.
The archetype trees are getting hit by a tsunami, and they're being replaced by something else. So I would remember some of those skills fondly.
Take pictures.
Take pictures.
You can remember. You can talk about the day when there was a Legionnaire.
Remember the day that there was a Legionnaire skill tree and the day that there was a Templar skill tree? Yes, those things are being replaced by something new. Again, that's in a future update. Some of those skills will survive the tsunami, but a lot of them will get washed away. Let's see. Skill tree tsunami. Yeah, that's so sad. You know, it's funny that you put a lot of work into those things. That's why I said a lot of those things will survive, but a lot of them just don't make sense in the new class race stuff. I mean, class race was a pretty big change to the entire game, and it has to apply to it because otherwise it wouldn't make sense to have a bunch of archetypes because there's no such thing as an archetype really anymore. Right? So you'd be like, go to the archetype tree. You're like, what's an archetype? I don't know. It's kind of like a class. Why is it called class then? Well, yeah. So we have to just make it all fit within the new model. And it is a far cooler model once you guys get your hands on it, but that's after campaign worlds. Okay. Another question. Some of these are just going by quick. Jack, do you have anything earmarked?
Screelings asked, stealth is only revealed by powers now, not stats.
Well, you get the stats from a power.
Or you get... Yes, so there's two components to revealing stealth now. There is the how big is the area that I see stealth things in, which is called your anti-stealth rating, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then when you activate the power, it actually turns that on. So normally you have no awareness of the stealth world, which is why Illusionist gets their reveal.
Mole Hunters.
Mole Hunter has one, and I believe Ranger is getting one if they don't already have it. But that's the whole. We're getting a new animation for it. I've asked Cook for it, which is hey, I'm looking around, and when you see somebody doing this, you're going to know that they're activating their anti-stealth. Once it activates, then their rating goes in, and if they have a very small stat, they're not going to see very far. If they've gotten a bunch of anti-stealth rating, the bubble that they can see, and I think it goes out to 25 meters now. So basically, it's pretty big. Yeah. But that's a max skilled person. And what's going to happen is every stealther has a bubble. Basically, you can think of it as how much noise they're producing. That is how far they can be to be revealed. So someone who has a lot of stealth skill, their bubble is very small. Someone who doesn't have a lot of stealth skill, or maybe say is stealth while wearing plate, has a very big noise bubble. Mm-hmm. So if someone has a lot of anti-stealth and the stealther has low stealth, they'll be very easy to see when they start looking in the shadows. If someone has a lot of stealth skill, their bubble will be small, and right. So you guys can you can put those combos together.
So with the tsunami coming, can they expect a skill wipe around that time?
Since a lot of your training in archetype is not going to be useful anymore, I don't know that there's a point to keeping some of those around. So probably sometime in the future. I mean, we haven't done one yet. Yeah, we haven't had to do one yet. It's a good time to actually go through and walk through the trees again. So yes, at some point in the future there will be the skill wipe. Are you guys doing Crowfall game? Are you guys doing some basic game security measures to ensure stats aren't hacked or players can be impacted by some tomfoolery? Well, one of the benefits we have of being an MMO is everything is on the server. So you could you could change your client stats to be whatever. That's not what there are on the server. So
you can make it so your client thinks you're doing a bunch of damage, and you hit somebody, and you see their bar go and disappear. It's not going to really do anything on the server, though.
Yeah, the server is always authoritative. So I think 3 or 4 MMOs is under most people's belts here for a lot of us, and yeah, those things are well known.
Yeah, I mean, we know what you guys are gonna, not you guys, but the
you would ever
bad
do
guys,
the bad guys,
the bad people. We know what the bad people are gonna try.
So yes, they everything is server authoritative. So you can make fun screenshots, I guess, with hey, look at my stats, and really, the server rejects it all and says no. Oberon's, what do we got? Well, we did see a speed hacker on Big World. Well, I don't know that it's speed hacking so much as the server grabbing and warping you to where it wants to. Those issues still happen every now and then, but the server is very clearly checking for distance and how fast you're moving in a period of time.
Yep. And
it snatches you back if it thinks you have moved too far. And sometimes it snatches you back when you haven't. So, yeah, we have systems in there to obviously to look at those things. And sometimes the server just grabs you and pulls you. That will get fixed hopefully long term. Do you have anything else planned for VIP? We have lots of things planned for VIP. We're constantly going to be enhancing the value of that. Did you already talk about class promotions? Will they remain? We will see. Were all the stats divided by 10? Is there any worry that the rogue stats are impacting things heavily from the shadows?
The rogue stats? What should they mean?
I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm not sure what Sin Garen. If you could clarify that question, please. I'm kind of curious what the rogue stats you're referring to.
I mean, if you're talking about stats we missed or whatever, there have been those. We expected to have some stats that whatever didn't get converted, and we've been finding fixes. Like the Legionnaire self heal, for example, was one of those I just most recently fixed. For example,
here's another stealth one. Will anti-stealth and stealth bubbles reveal when bubbles touch or when players enter the bubbles? Anytime those bubbles are touching. So if you anti-stealth and there's a stealther in there, obviously you will see them.
They meant like misbehaving rogue stats, like.
Oh, okay.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So kind of what I thought. Yeah. So yeah, basically, yeah, we've been finding and fixing them. If you find something that's still out of scale, let us know. We'll fix it.
Yeah.
Because there's still a handful. We have a lot of data, right? And a lot of things. So we, as expected, missed a few, and we'll fix them.
Hey guys, are the champion getting some love in the future? It simply seems weak at the moment. I think champion suffers a lot from the inability to hit things, as we were talking about.
That is.
I have a feeling that with these changes coming out, the melee classes are going to surge in popularity simply because you can actually hit what you think you should be hitting, rather than I miss. I hit every couple of times.
Yeah, and a lot of actually really most of the classes have things with an appreciable enough cooldown that if it misses, it hurts, right? Like if you miss, you miss your stomp with the champion, the CC, crowd control, and that hurts. That's that much more damage you're going to take.
Right? And it's designed. It is designed to hurt if you miss, but
it's right.
It shouldn't be missing to the degree that it's missing.
Right. Or you missed because your skill was bad, not because our servers were whatever, internet latency happened. So that will improve a lot. And obviously, we're still, we're always making improvements and stuff, right? And in fact, I mean, when you can actually hit with the champion is pretty tough. If anything, I think that the champion feels a little probably more tanky than it should right now. But
also,
there's still
if you're rolling with third wind too, because that gets you back up to 80% if I remember correctly.
Right. That between that and the Ultimate Warrior restoration, they're pretty tough. For DPS. So we'll surely be doing more passes on the classes as time goes forward.
Okay. Well, we are a little bit over. I'll answer one more question.
No, we're not gonna. I'm not gonna nerf Champ's tankiness. It's all caps in it.
I'm waiting for a good one.
Waiting for a good one.
Waiting for we're fishing. What's a good one?
Sucks.
Yes, the champion's healing a lot. What hair product do you use, Blair?
That's a good one.
That's an excellent question.
I'd like to know that.
I use a clear gel called Ampro that comes in this big tub.
Buys it by the 5
gallon. We buy it by the gallon.
By the pickle barrel.
And you guys laugh, but I mean, just being camera presentable all the time is Mark's got a little easier than I do, but I have to make sure I get a haircut every 2 weeks so I can be presentable for you guys and not look all hippie-like.
Whoa.
Thank you, Gibson. I'm glad that Gibson appreciates the effort that I put into it, making sure I'm not looking all. Yeah, and Orland says it's no easy task shaving your head either, so he appreciates the effort there. Stalker question: can you elaborate a bit on it and the changes it will bring to the Ranger? Well, again, the Stalker functionality is going to get folded into the Ranger, which is basically the anti-stealth component. And the Elkin, I believe obviously I'm not showing the racial today because we showed you the Ganeshan.
Mm-hmm.
I believe they get a distance increaser. So again, the vision has always been that the Stalker would be kind of a sniper, and we can do that with just increasing their distance,
right,
as part of their racial, which would only apply to the Ranger,
right?
Because obviously the range. Does Elkin get Cleric?
Well, I thought they could be Confessor too. Am I wrong?
They do get Confessor.
Yeah, so which is awesome.
So that range increase will also apply to
Pure Mage,
to the Confessor fireballs, as well as if we're giving them Cleric, then the hammers will also go.
That's true.
They don't get Cleric. They get Knight, Confessor, Templar, and Ranger.
Okay. So then it won't apply to the hammers because they don't get Cleric yet. Yeah. But their Confessor fireballs will shoot further, as well as their. Yeah, they will be the distance class, and their model is looking badass.
Yeah,
we've seen it on Eric's monitor. He's been working on that. It's going to be interesting. We're not going to be able to do our standard archetype reveal as we did in the past, but we are now at 15 minutes over. So we are going to thank you for turning up. What's up?
11 minutes over.
Well,
your clock's wrong.
Okay. Thanks for coming out to see what we've done in the last month in review. You will get to see this all in your hands soon, hopefully imminently, as long as we're really excited for you guys. Because again, we love the videos, and when the videos start to get stale, it's like we're running out of things to tweak. You guys need the next round of stuff so we can start polishing that, and you will have fun, I'm hoping, in the new world. And then we'll start standing those systems up, so the sieges and stuff will come online. So we're looking forward to it. Good stuff. It will be an exciting August, we're hoping. Yeah. And we're in the middle of July, so hopefully July will be exciting too.
What month is it? Oh, God.
Yeah, time just starts to meld after you've been building for so long. So thanks for coming out, and we will see you guys in a future update.